Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JacinioTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode. We're going to be doing the preview ahead of our clash against West Ham at the London Stadium on Sunday. So make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Today we're going to be going over availability, who's available for Arsenal and who is not, as well as West Ham, the form of both teams and the stats around the fixture, and also talking about keys to the match, players to watch, things like that. Get into the chat box and let me know what you guys are thinking about this fixture. I know it's a little bit early. You guys are probably like, why didn't I wait till tomorrow? Because obviously Arteta hasn't done his press conference, but I'm not going to be around tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm actually going to be doing something fun with the Premier League with a West Ham content creator. So I won't be available. And my cousin is in town. She is in London. So I'm going to be spending some time with her as well as doing some work out there, in London. So I won't be available stream wise. And also just a heads up, I think I'm going to do a stream later on tonight talking more about Diaby. We've been heavily linked to him in the January transfer window as well as the summer window. So I want to do a little bit of a video on him as well. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on that show. Now, for the people that were like, hello, like, why are you late? It was only like 5 seconds. Like, come on, be for real. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Tamina says, hi, Jessica. How are you doing today? I'm doing well. I can't complain. I'm just waiting for the weekend. I'm ready for Arsenal to play. Boy says, just rip off the Band-Aid and tell me who we lost to injury. I'll talk about that in a second. Errol says, hope you don't freeze like yesterday, Jess. Me too. Martin says, injury blow. Don't tell me Thomas is hurt again. No. Mackenzie Edward says, hey, Jess, what's up, people? So, yeah. And Amina says, Jess is hustling this week. I'm trying to catch up because I know you guys have been like, where has she been? And I'm here. So let's go ahead and get stuck in and talk about availability. So the main player that I think everybody is thinking about is William Saliba. A lot of Arsenal fans, I think, had the idea that William Saliba would come back for the West Ham game. Arteta has said in his press conferences that he feels like there's a chance that he could come back and play for this season, but he was not seen in training yesterday and is a huge doubt for the game at the weekend. Arsenal don't want to risk him, and so he is most certainly not going to play against West Ham, which throws everything into a little bit of I think an uncomfortable situation. Like, we already went to Anfield, we got the point, but now we have 2 games until we play against Manchester City away from home, and that is the one fixture along with Newcastle away where we must have William Saliba. By the time we get to Manchester City away, William Saliba will have not played for Arsenal for 6 weeks, and so that is a huge blow to Arsenal's title challenge or title hopes, because him being out of the team for 6 weeks means that his fitness, if he were to play against Manchester City, wouldn't be the best. And so it feels a little bit like, okay, so is he going to come back now, or is it going to be one of those where we get him back when maybe the title race is no longer on? It's really not looking good, you guys, and not seeing him in training day after day is making, for me at least, making me feel like I should expect William Saliba back less and less and less and less and less. And so a lot of people, every single, stream keeps asking me, Saliba, what's going on with Saliba? What's going on with Saliba? From what I've read, he is prolonging or, postponing a much needed surgery on his back in order to potentially be available for the run-in. I back Arsenal without William Saliba to be able to beat West Ham away, to beat Southampton at home, to beat, Brighton at home. Like, I expect us to do well at home. What I'm not sure about is going away from home up north, to the better teams without William Saliba. And so I think he wants to be available for those games, which of course he does. He's worked so hard to be a part of this team. And our best starting 11 has only played with each other like 6 times this season, maybe even less. And so it's just a little bit of a blow. Like once we get somebody back, somebody is out, and we really need our best 11 going into those fixtures. And so I'm not surprised that he wants to prolong the surgery, but my biggest fear is that he will come back to play in those games and aggravate an injury, not be 100%. It'll be like having Holding anyway, because he's not really ready to go. And then maybe we lose him for the beginning of next season. So it is, kind of a race against time with William Saliba. And I'm worried about that surgery. I don't know what a back surgery is going to be like, but if we think about as humans, how we use our bodies, anytime you kind of run, move side to side, your back is stretched, it really is. And so I don't understand how he can play if he needs a surgery, how he's going to play at a good level against really good teams, being out for 6 weeks. It just feels, So yeah, nobody is additionally injured, but there was a feeling amongst Arsenal fans that maybe he'd be back for West Ham, maybe Southampton, and please, for the love of God, be ready for Manchester City. But as days go by, it feels less and less and less likely. Nketiah, he is also, back. He's back in regular training. And so he's still a doubt because he hasn't played for 7 weeks? He hasn't played for a long time, but he's back in training. So he should be back sooner rather than later. But the two of them will probably not be able to go away to the London Stadium on Sunday. And so we're looking okay up top, but at the back, I don't know. Mackenzie Edwards says, I trust Rob Holding in that FA Cup match against City. I thought Holding did really well. Yeah, I think, we always, when we think about Rob, and you want to think glass half full with Rob Holding, you always want to think back to the times where he did well. And there are big games that he played with Arsenal, big games, FA Cups, stuff like that. And he was rather successful. My only, pushback to, some of that is that we were also playing in a back three, which really, contained some of his flaws, minimized the space in between him and the other players. And also we were usually pushed right back into our box, against Manchester City. We were in our box for the entire match, and we hit them on the break twice. It was a great game, but it was very much a cup win. In the league, I'm not sure that we have an answer for that, a situation where we can put Rob Holding kind of like, cocoon him a little bit in order to keep him from making those mistakes or getting ran over, so although there are big moments where Rob Holding has played well, I'm not sure that really applies itself, to Manchester City at the Etihad in the league. Martin N says, I think people need to reassess Rob Holding. Is he world-class? No, but has he been a solid backup for us this season? He has been. And I don't think he's been catastrophic or anything like that. I do think we have to remember that, we already know what the flaws are from Holding. So I don't even think that there's a reason to keep going in on him for it, because he's never going to be William Saliba. There's a huge gap in between the two players. My only thing, is that the other players around him have to rise to the occasion and almost have to overcompensate for his lack of pace and things like that. And so that's where, there's kind of like a ripple effect or a domino or, whatever, in terms of how the knock on from having to overcompensate for him, how that affects the rest of the team. And in most matches, it doesn't matter, because we're so good. It doesn't matter against the Crystal Palaces and, whoever else we played recently. We played Crystal Palace, Leeds, doesn't really matter. But when the games are fine margins, it really does matter. And I think that's where, Arteta needs to think about maybe ways to, really think of a way to make sure that those fine margins that go in our way, even with Rob Holding in the team. But yeah, we know he's not good enough. you know, so when people just continue to go like, you know, he's this, we already know that, but what are we going to do about it? That's the most important thing from an Arteta perspective, team perspective. What are we going to do about it? Because we're in a title race, and I don't think saying, well, we had Rob Holding, you know, is really good enough, you know, to be honest. Aha says, Holding did decent at Anfield, bar that one bad pass in the first half for the Salah chance. And also the penalty foul made a lot of good defensive headers, but hopefully Saliba is back ASAP. Hopefully. Jakobsen says, should we slightly tweak the way we play with Rob Holding in the team? I don't know, because I just don't. This is what we kind of spoke about yesterday, was the tactical flexibility from an Arteta perspective. You know, what can he do to make sure that, you know, is there a big game away from home setting that Arteta can employ in a short period of time so that we don't lose to Manchester City? Because if we lose to Manchester City at the Etihad, I think it's done. You know, I really, really do. You know, so does he have some sort of button that he can press for just those two games, the Etihad away and St. James, so that we don't lose those games and our, you know, title challenge doesn't go, you know, off into the wind, you know? Does he have that in his locker? I'm not sure. So it's a difficult one. William says, I don't see us winning at Manchester City. We just have to win all of our other games and hope for the best. Obi says, I'm sorry, guys, Holding is a liability in big games. Unfortunately, we have seen multiple examples of this. However, it's our best option right now. Hey, just shout out from the UK. Shout out to you as well. I mean, I do like, I understand that he wasn't terrible against Liverpool, but I did feel like, you know, he, especially like on the ball, is where I found him to be a little bit, it really showed up. And of course, William Saliba is a much better ball playing center back than Rob Holding. But I'm like, what can we do to make sure that he's not dictating play from deep for us? You know, that's the thing, is like, I don't want to see Rob Holding dictating play from deep from an Arsenal perspective. I need it to be somebody else. Mackenzie says, I agree, but in that City game, Haaland was seeking out Holding. There was countless times in that match that Haaland was isolated against Holding, and for the most part, Haaland got dealt with. Yeah, I do think that, you know, when we played against City in the Cup, I didn't feel like Haaland necessarily got the best of Rob Holding, but what I will say is I think the Haaland that we'll play against in a couple of weeks is going to be different than the Haaland that we saw in the FA Cup. I think both teams pretty much played at half speed, and City were able to deal with us at half speed. They weren't, you know, running over us, but they were by no means playing the way that they played against Bayern Munich the other night. So I think we're going to see more of that City versus the City that we saw against in the FA Cup. And if you watch Erling Haaland and how he absolutely destroyed Upamecano, looked like he was just like, hello, do you know where you are? Like, he was just done. And so Erling Haaland can do that to Upamecano. He can do that to really, really good defenders. And so I do think that Rob Holding is going to have a difficult time with Erling Haaland if that's the, you know, if he has to play in that match. So yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of who's available for us. Everybody else should be available. So it's a very strong team that we can still play going to the London Stadium. And the one thing is, like, I know a lot of Arsenal fans are looking forward to Man City. I'm looking forward as well, and trying to figure out what we can do to make sure that we don't lose that game. But if we don't beat West Ham, it doesn't matter. You know, this game is so important to rebound off of, you know, a game that we probably should have won, and to keep the hopes alive, because you never know what will happen with City. I mean, I think we're all kind of hoping that magically Manchester City just take their eye off the ball and drop a point here or there, but we have to be able to capitalize on that. And the only way to do that is if you beat, you know, West Ham, you beat Southampton and things like that. There's 116 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. So moving forward, yeah, we're just looking for this guy to hopefully figure out a way to come back. He's been outstanding, you know, an outstanding player for us. I know he really wants to come back, but the last thing that you really want is, for him to risk himself for next season as well. So I think it's day by day, really, with this guy. Looking at West Ham, they're going to play tonight in the Europa Conference League. I don't know who they're playing against, but, they're doing well in the Conference League, which is kind of a different story to how it is in the Premier League for them. Scamacca is out. He has a knee issue, and so he definitely won't be playing against us. But Paqueta is back. He was in training for them ahead of their match today, and so chances are he will be back for the Arsenal game and also probably back in their starting lineup. He usually plays in the number 10 position for them, so that's a boost for them. And but those are the players that they have out and in. So that's where we are, you guys. That's where we are. Let's see what you guys are saying. If he says, Salibi, please, we need you. And Errol says he is on the bench. If you're talking about, are you talking about Scamacca or Paqueta? Let's see what their lineup is. Honestly, oh yeah, they're already playing. Let's see. Oh yeah, they have Danny Ings. I forgot about that as well. Paqueta's on the bench for them. Antonio's on the bench for them. So it actually kind of looks like they may be resting players for us. They're playing again Ghent, I guess they're in the Belgian league, correct? So it actually looks like they may be resting players for our game at the weekend. Souček, we know he'll start. Benrahma, I'm sure he'll start. Paqueta will start. Mikel Antonio will start. So, and Cresswell and Kurt Zouma will probably start as well against us. So yeah, we will see. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. So next we are going to talk about form and stats ahead of this fixture. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes. Let's go. So contrary to popular belief, Arsenal are in good form right now. You may not have heard, you may have thought if you just popped up online that Arsenal are losing every single game, but no, we are in very good form. 7 wins in a row, 1 draw away from home at Anfield, and hopefully we'll continue on with our good form against West Ham. It's looking good. First in the Premier League. You guys know, you guys were there. We look good. Hopefully, like I said, we can continue things on, but you would just think like the way that people have overreacted to the Anfield result, I get the disappointment, but that we were like 100% like the worst team in the world. We're still first. We're still 6 points clear. Now, Manchester City could be within 3 points of us by the time we start our game. So, take that, I think that's how it's mostly going to be for the rest of the season because they're going to be playing in Champions League. So on the Tuesday or whatever, I think they're going to put a lot of their games are kind of like before ours. I don't know. That's what it feels like. And so, it adds to the drama of everything. They're catching us and coming within those 3 points, but we've done it before. There's been times this season where they've been within 3, they've been within 2. There's been times this season and we've always responded. Hopefully Sunday is no different, but we are looking good. Now looking at, West Ham, it's a little bit of a different picture. They actually, they're all right. They're all right. They beat Fulham. I think it was an own goal. Fulham are really falling down. If you guys haven't noticed, like the last, basically since the World Cup, they haven't looked anything like what they were like pre-World Cup, and West Ham were able to get a win against them. They lost pretty heavily against West Ham. They were able to beat Southampton, and then they drew to Aston Villa, and they lost to Brighton pretty heavily as well. I think it was a 4-0 scoreline. So what I kind of am seeing from this is like against the better teams, the West Ham, the Newcastles and the Brightons, they don't do well, but teams that are kind of like around their level, they look fine or they do okay, but they're really struggling for goals. A lot of these games, like it's the ones that they were able to get something, like they are like a 1-goal team, and they're scraping it. So they're not scoring a lot of goals. They're not the type of team that is going to blow us away 3, are going to really be like pushing us, and like it's not going to be that. They're really struggling for goals. So this is not a game that, we should allow them to feel like they're going to score a bunch of goals against us. Like, we really need to shut the back door, push them back, and then beat them up like 3 or 4-0. Like, it really needs to be that. We need to set the tone, really, because this team does not score a lot of goals. If they were to score 2 goals against us, it's because we were not good enough. This team is not great. Now, Arsenal have lost just one of their last 14 Premier League games against West Ham. We've won 10 and drawn 3. So we're good against West Ham. It's not a team that we have any sort of like, weird past with, where it's like, oh, they're our bogey team or anything like that. That's not to say we should take them lightly. We should absolutely be very serious against them, because we know that if you're off just a little bit in the Premier League, you could get got. But, this is a team that we pretty much do well against every time that we play them. So we should be beating them. Gabriel Martinelli has scored 3 or assisted 1 in all 4 of his Premier League starts against West Ham. It's a team that Martinelli likes to play against. And bukayo Saka has scored 1 or assisted 2 in each of his last 3 Premier League games against West Ham. So our wingmen tend to like a game against West Ham. And they're always the key to our success. If Saka and Martinelli can get on the ball and, start to create that chaos that we've been known for this season, we're unbeatable, really. And so the only time that we've really seen our team struggle was that we didn't have that ability to switch positions when Nketiah was in the side, and they were really pushing way back into their box and, playing 5 at the back and really doubling up on our wingmen. But ever since we've been able to get Trossard/Jesus back in the side, it seems like bukayo Saka and Martinelli are finding that joy. And so, yeah, I think this is going to be a good day for our wingmen, hopefully. Crispy says, if we play a part in West Ham's relegation, I will have no qualms. Richie Rabbit says, London derbies are usually tougher and they should be on form. Yeah, maybe. I do think we've done really well in every single London derby that we played this season. So I would expect it to be no different. And, I don't know. I feel like as much as I want to put on this face like I'm nervous, I'm not, because I don't know if they're going to be able to play midweek. Depending on what happens, they may have to, hopefully the game stays for them against Ghent or whatever, where they feel like they need to, maybe bring on some of those starters, and maybe, they lose a little bit of their fitness or whatever. You know what I mean? If you play midweek, you have to struggle a little bit against a team that you shouldn't be struggling against. And then you have to play against a really good Arsenal team at the weekend. And I think it's always one of those where once you score a goal, they deflate. And that's exactly what I saw when West Ham, they played at home against Newcastle. They had a couple of little chances in the first 20 minutes. Newcastle came right down and scored 1 goal, and that was it. They weren't able to get back into the game. And then once Newcastle scored that second goal, that was done. So I think the same thing will happen if we can get that early goal. But West Ham is a team, London derby or not, that we should be beating and taking care of 100%. And if we play like we did in that first half against Liverpool, we should be out of sight, really, against West Ham. Terrence Tipp says, I told people last season West Ham would be in a relegation battle next season. I've seen it before. I think it's difficult to keep up those levels. And I think once they got involved in Europe, they struggled, and then their recruitment hasn't been great either. So I'm surprised that they're so far down, but one of their biggest issues is not being able to score. And they were a team that felt like, they had that covered last season. So, when we talk about 1-2 season wonders, I think West Ham really is in that category of team, Lamang says, Sufal always struggles against Martinelli. Crispy says, I don't think most people believe that the title. Wait, you're okay. Wait, hold on. Halo is saying, I believe both teams will win their next 2 matches, and on the 26th, we'll know who the Prem champs are. Kind of talked about that. I do think if we don't if we lose at the Etihad, it's done. But yeah, Saksham says it would be difficult, but we need to put in a solid and honest performance. And what happens at the end of the season. Lynn says the game at Anfield, the ref was given Liverpool decisions when Fabinho should have seen red, and Kanate should have seen red. But once again, Tierney ignored the way our players were taken out. Paul Tierney is the worst Premier League ref that there is. He definitely lost control of that game, but I also think we played into it as well. We have to be able to, kind of get beyond the referees. We're too good of a team. And I think, honestly, if we had just played football against Liverpool, we would have beat them. But because we were really concerned about wasting time and, being involved in dark arts and stuff, we lost our heads a little bit. If we play, football against West Ham, we beat them. We beat them 10 out of 10, but I understand what you're saying for sure. 100%. Amir says, pretty sure we have conceded in any of our away London derbies so far this season. We've been really good in them, and we seem to be better away from home. We really do. We seem to have our heads screwed on a little bit better when we're away from home. I don't know if we just relaxed a little bit too much at the Emirates, but away from home, our record is so much better. And so I would expect the same thing against West Ham. It'll be, and Liverpool was just, I think that second half against Liverpool made people get really nervous. When we play against a team like West Ham, we should go back to the way that we usually are. We were uncharacteristically under par against Liverpool in the second half. And that happens. There's 142 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Gunner9 says we play better because teams play open. Richie Rabbit says it's been a fantastic and an unexpected season, so let's all celebrate however it ends. Boy says pretty excited for our prospects next season. Saka, Martinelli, Saliba, Odegaard will all be a year smarter, and they'll have new recruits to affect the game with. So on that note, we're going to talk about players to watch, and one of those players to watch might be an Arsenal player next season. So let's get into it. So in every single, game, there's always matchups to look at and players that could be standouts or, situations in a game that can give you an advantage or not. And obviously a lot of Arsenal fans are going to be eager to see how Declan Rice plays against us. I think at the Emirates, he was pretty much beaten down, to be honest. I remember a moment where Saka just absolutely bodied Declan Rice, but I also think that mentally, whether you like this or not, I think Declan Rice is pretty much, checked out at West Ham right now. And so I don't think he's having his best performances for them, but it will be interesting to see how he plays against our midfield when we go to them. And so one of our players to watch is obviously Declan Rice. Pretty much our number one target. The talk of most Arsenal fans in terms of, do you want Declan Rice? Do you want Caicedo? What do you want to do? Where is he going to play? What's going to happen? I'm just interested to see a full match of this guy against our midfield and see where his strengths, combine with our strengths, or what his strengths can do to mitigate our weaknesses. Because we spoke about this yesterday, but Arsenal definitely need legs in midfield. Our midfield does not. When we can control the match and we're just right up at halfway, Saliba and Gabriel can just sweep things up. Our midfield does not have to have the legs, really. But when you get against the Newcastles, against the Liverpools, and against the Manchester Cities, and they decide that they want to make it into a basketball match, Arsenal cannot keep up. And so a player like Declan Rice would definitely, I think, help us in that regard. But I'm really interested to see how he plays against us. My only thing is, if you want to come to Arsenal, play well, but don't play too good. I don't know why it is. Players that want to come to Arsenal decide that they want to have the best game of their lives when we play against them. That is not the way to get your transfer, sir. I need you to, play well and then kick the ball in the back of your net. 100%. But it'll be interesting to see how he plays against us. Terrence Tipp says, we must not make the same mistakes. Lynn says, Jess, I don't think that Rice is worth the price tag that has been put on him. I mean, the price tag looks like it's 75 million or something like that. Most players aren't worth the price tag that that's attached to them. I mean, Boy is saying Bellingham's supposedly going to cost 130 million. If that's the case, then Saka's 200 million player. Just sticking on Bellingham, as good as Bellingham is, he's not worth 130 million. Neither was Enzo. And so, if that's our number one target, I don't care what he costs, as long as it's not way over. I mean, if you think about, like, Ben White was probably a 30 million pound player, and we spend 20 million more than that to get him. If Declan Rice is probably a 50 million, 60 million, pound midfielder, and we're going to play about 20 million over the odds for him. So, I think that's just the going rate. Do you know what I mean? Denver says the market is screwed now thanks to Chelsea. Thanks to a lot of teams, but yeah, they've done their part, for sure. Crispy says 75 million is high, but in the end, he's their star player. He's pre-prime. He's in, an England international. He's, Premier League proven. He's never injured. I think those things really do come into play, really. And so I'm not too worried about the price tag for this guy, because I think he'll be worth it, especially if that's who Arteta really wants. Every player that he's really, really wanted, that we went out there and got, they have been just phenomenal for us. So I'm not really worried about it. Jakobsen says, do you think if Rice plays for Xhaka, it will allow Zinny to play more further up and have more of an attacking threat? Yeah, I do. I think when you have somebody the thing about Rice that he's really good at is, winning the ball back so that you can continue pressure. And also, he's a defender by trade. He used to be a center back, so he's comfortable in wide positions and centrally in a back line. He understands defensive principles, but he also is so good in the tackle that he can keep that pressure recirculating. And so it can help from a Zinchenko standpoint, but it could also just help Arsenal maintain that level of pressure over and over and over again. And he's not small, because one of the other things is that I really don't want to see Arsenal get smaller. One of the things that kind of frustrated me, especially like the middle of the Arsene Wenger Emirates era, was that we got really small. And even though we were technical, physically, we couldn't cope. And I think in order to get that right combination that you see that Manchester City definitely have now, is that they've kind of gotten rid of some of those players that physically could not cope with the league and cope with European games as well, and brought in physical monsters that had the technical levels as well. And I think we're lacking a couple of those, a couple in the back line, as well as maybe a few in the midfield. So, bringing in Rice can help with a couple of different things, but we definitely need athleticism in our midfield. We cannot go another season without it. Danny says Declan Rice and Caicedo will improve our midfield. Also, Ivan Toney, and we're good for a season. Don't think we'll be in for Ivan Toney, but I agree with Caicedo, Rice. Tony says, agree, we need to keep our technical level, but we can't be small in the Premier League. Danny says we need to sign Prem-proven players. Look at Trossard and how he's helped us. Yeah, I agree. I think Premier League proven, or players that have played at a high level, like even somewhere else, for me is fine. But no more prospects and projects. I think that's, unless they are a super special talent, like I'm talking like Fresneda, type, where, they're 18, but that they're going to be the future of that position. That's pretty much it. But everybody else, especially from a midfield perspective and forward, has got to have experience, either Premier League experience or Champions League experience, like 100%. Let's see. Crispy says Rice is slowly growing on me simply due to the dual nature of his playing style. Yo-Yo was talking about this yesterday in stream and was like, what do you think about Declan Rice? Is he going to be in the front five or the back five? I think he could actually exist within either, but if I had to say what his key attributes would be better for, would be the back five. So, allowing Zinchenko to go up, and then he becomes, maybe he plays in the Thomas Partey kind of role next to, next to Ben White, or, he just fills in for, Zinchenko in that back line. Like, there's just so many different things that he can do, but I do think he's more of a protector than an attacker. But Arteta can make, xhaka into a box-to-box player, then he can make Declan Rice into one as well. Danny says Declan Rice is a box-to-box player. And C? What's a C? Is a C a captain? That's another one of his really good attributes as well, is that he's a leader, and you can never have too many of those. There's 187 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. Now, the next player to watch is, I think, an obvious pick, which is Gabriel Martinelli. When you look at his form in the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, I mean, this is just somebody that is on a completely different level at the time. And like, if you think about Aston Villa was the first game where he was dropped, which I think was needed, just to reset, you know, take the pressure off. He scored that goal where he had his hands out, open net. And then from there, he has been unplayable, 100%. Goal against Aston Villa, goal against Leicester, 2 goals against Everton, no goals against Bournemouth, but who cares about that? 1 goal against Fulham, 1 goal against Crystal Palace, an assist against Leeds, and a goal and assist against Liverpool away from home at Anfield. And so this is just, I mean, the levels that he's at right now are just, I mean, I don't know why people aren't really talking about him. He's 1 goal away from being the highest scoring Brazilian player in the Premier League of all time. Firmino holds the record. And so he could definitely do that against West Ham. And so with Martinelli, I think the key matchup for him, somebody said it was Sioux Fall. I actually think it's going to be Carrere. If it's Carrere, Martinelli is going to have an absolute field day. That guy is such a bad defender. It's ridiculous. And so he couldn't handle St. Maximum. He definitely is not going to be able to handle Gabriel Martinelli. And that's a matchup that I'm really looking at, because I think Martinelli, in the form that he's in, can absolutely eat him alive. And it's key, because even if, you know, they try to double up with Bowen, attacking wise, that doesn't serve them either. Try to double up and you make Bowen come back, that hurts them attacking wise as well. And so, because Bowen is probably one of their better attackers on that side. So I think Martinelli is going to have a field day if it's Carrere, and I back him to break that record against West Ham, because why wouldn't you? Gunner9 says, I think it's shit defenders. Let Martinelli come on to his favorite foot. Danny says, we need Saliba back for Man City. Oh yeah, we've already kind of talked about that. Saksham says, Carrere can't even handle Eddie. Ola M says, the title of the show is misleading and confusing. No idea what it means. Well, Arsenal handed injury blow ahead of West Ham clash. Basically, Saliba is a player that people thought would potentially be back for the West Ham game. And because he wasn't in training, that's a blow for Arsenal. So yeah, there's a little clickbaity, but it got you guys here. Make sure you guys subscribe. Stubbs says, David Moyes is going to lose his job after this game. Mark my word. I just didn't want him to lose the job before. That was my thing. I just didn't want him to lose his job before, because we don't need another no manager or manager bounce, you know. Dev M says, I think he needs 2 goals to break the record for. You think it's 2? I thought it was 1. Okay, if it's 2, he could still do that as well. Scored by a Brazilian player in a single season. So yeah. Martin L says, if Martinelli learns to play with his head held up, he could be as great as CR7. Yeah, maybe. I'm not this, you know, so like, Martinelli, put your head up, like kind of thing. Like, that's kind of like his style. But yeah, I think he's getting better though, to be honest. I mean, look at these goals and assists. Like, this guy is not like underperforming, you know, because his head's down. Denver says Martinelli is genuinely showing Vinny Jr. levels right now. Vinny Jr. absolutely destroyed Reece James yesterday. It was actually like really funny to me. Tony says, Jess, you don't need to clickbait to get us here. I mean, but like, why not? You know, I mean, first of all, let's just talk about clickbaiting really quick. People complain about it, but like, everybody does it. You write enticing titles to get people here. And then once they start listening, they're like, oh yeah, I like this place. So yeah, if I gave you guys a scare, I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, because I know you guys are probably shitting it. But like, yeah, not having Saliba for West Ham is an injury blow. So I didn't lie. Maybe I just didn't tell the full truth. You guys love me, right? Okay. So I won't do it again because you guys seem to be like devastated by it. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's keep going. Morgan says Martinelli ain't far off Vinny Jr. He needs more goals and assists. The weird thing about Martinelli is the Brazilian people act like he doesn't exist. It's like the weirdest thing. Like when he got called up for the Brazilian national team for the World Cup, people were like, they were distraught over it. I can't believe they chose him over Gabriel. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody even knows who he is. What is it about Martinelli where people are acting like this guy doesn't exist when he's been like a shining star for like 2 years now? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I think the thing about Martinelli that will really boost his profile is, Saka's profile is already boosted because he's English. And so I think, Saka gets that natural boost because he's English and, it's just easier. Martinelli, I think, needs Champions League to really boost his profile. I think if he's scoring, goals in Europe, then people can't act like they don't know who he is. But at the moment, people are pretending like they don't see this kid and it's a joke. Nanu says, seriously, he has been unbelievable for us and he is so young. I agree. Dev M says, I'm not sure if they watch the Premier League a lot in Brazil. They may not, but a lot of their players play in our league. I think the Premier League has the most Brazilian national team players like in one league. Casemiro is at Manchester United. Thiago Silva is at Chelsea. Paquetá is at, West Ham. Bruno Guimaraes is at Newcastle. So as much as I want to believe that it's because they don't watch it, I'm not sure I believe that, because most of their team, like, there's probably a handful of them that don't play in this league, so they're here, and Martinelli and Gabriel, I do think, are disrespected for some reason. I'm just not sure why. Richie Rabbit says, there's something about Martinelli that makes him my favorite current players because he's scoring goals and getting assists. I can tell you why. Leslie says, Martinelli better than Saka. I don't care. I think both of them are astounding players, and have so much further to go. So whether it's Saka or Martinelli, I mean, opinion is an opinion, but I don't really do the them versus each other thing, because 1 minute it feels like it's Saka, the next minute it feels like Martinelli, because they're both so good. Denver says the issue is Martinelli is half Italian. That's why he goes under the radar. That doesn't stop Rafinha from being under the radar, does it? Rafinha is also half Italian, I think. So I'm not sure. Maybe it is that. I think it's Arsenal tax. But yeah. Tony says Arsenal is going to arrive in the Champions League next season. International recognition will come with Europe exposure. I agree. Yo-Yo says Martinelli finishing as Arsenal's top scorer would be a testament to Arteta and half his coaching. He is no longer being praised for his energy and intensity. Yeah, I agree. But Martinelli, I think, was always an end product player. He went through a little bit of time where it was like, ooh, what's going on here? But I think it was mostly injury than anything else. But I mean, from the minute he stepped onto an Arsenal pitch for the under 20 whatevers, he's been a goal scorer. And so always backed him to have the goals. I think the player I worried about a little bit more with that was Saka. I worried, that he was a good system player and helped us tick, but, does he have those goals? He definitely has it. So the two of them, we're so lucky to have them. I say that every day. So yeah, Matt Vang says because he plays for Arsenal, they hate us. That's what I want to believe. They hate us. Denver says Arsenal tax. The other clubs have CL legacy, and that's why Brazilians playing there get recognized. That I think that's actually a really good point as well, is that maybe it's just the European pedigree and stuff like that is maybe keeping him back, but it's not going to last for very much longer. Martinelli is exploding. He really is. And so the next player, obviously, that's going to be a player to watch from an Arsenal perspective is Gabriel Jesus, who is also on a little bit of a form streak. Obviously, he's just coming back into the fold, but 2 goals against Leeds and 1 goal against Liverpool. And the one thing about Gabriel Jesus that he gives us is that energy up top and that ability to press from the front. And one thing that I saw from West Ham against Newcastle is that they couldn't handle any pressure on that back line. Those boys were just rattled from minute 1 to minute 90 in terms of playing the ball out of the back. And especially Fabianski, I mean, he was culpable for probably 2 of the goals. And so I think Gabriel Jesus using his energy, pressing from the front, we could probably get a cheap goal for them just, trying to play out of the back, and we just nick the ball. And so I really like having him back in the team. I think Trossard has done a really good job, but Gabriel Jesus gives you unpredictability. He gives you flair. He gives you hold-up play. He gives you trickery. He gives you all those types of things. And I'm not trying to be mean to West Ham, but they have quite a few of those types of players that I feel like if you get them in the box and you dribble a little bit, they will nick you and you will get a penalty. And so Jesus is perfect for a game like this because the defenders aren't that great. Playing out from the back, they're suspect. You could run up on the goalkeeper and he may make a mistake. So him, Martinelli, Saka, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Stubb says West Ham are also playing tonight. Exactly. The only thing is I think they're resting quite a few players that will probably start, against us. But still, hopefully any little help that you can any little thing that can help, you'll take that at this point. Let's see. Saksham says he gives us headers also, whatever that means. I don't know. Boy says Saka also never leaving Arsenal. You guys are talking about Saka. Yo-Yo says Gabriel Jesus is revving up for the Etihad trip. I hope so. He may be the difference. He really may be the difference. And that's why we got him, is to be the difference in big games. Mohammed says Arsenal will take revenge against Barcelona in the Champions League next season. Whatever, narrative, any narrative driven fixture that we can get in the Champions League, we're going to get it. So Barcelona, Bayern Munich, something, it, we're going to get one of those 100%. Richie Rabbit says, under what conditions are you starting Trossard instead of Martinelli or Jesus? One of them are ill. I love Trossard. I really do. But I do think that his initial role in this team was always going to be somebody that underpinned the starting group, especially Jesus and Martinelli. And in their absence, or, Martinelli was out of form, I think he's done a really good job. But the way that we played at the beginning of the season with those two has not been replicated at all with anything else, So as good as Trossard, Martinelli, and Saka was, there was nothing like Arsenal under the sun, the pink kit with Martinelli and Jesus playing together, So I think I'm okay, with Trossard coming off of the bench. It gives us another option, but there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. John Donut says, Jess, I really think Martinelli's skill ceiling is so high. Arteta is going to have Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, Trossard moving like FC Arsenal. I really believe that. Yeah, for sure. And if we could add another one to this group, I think we'd be really in a good position. But the 4 of them, most combinations, I know Trossard wasn't amazing off of the right, but any combination you use of that group is dangerous, so we're really lucky. There's 220 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Michael says, sneakily, Jesus has been delivering since his return. 3 goals in 2 is not that bad. It really isn't for a player that doesn't score. The whole narrative around Jesus is that he doesn't score goals. And this looks like, a player that is reinvigorated by, coming back into the team. Boy says start Trossard when Martinelli is going to be up against a player like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is the best 1v1 defender, fullback in the league. So I don't know. I think I'm glad we don't have to play them anymore, obviously, because I can't stand them. But yeah, he's the only player that I think can stop Vinny Jr. as well. I don't know. He's just a very, very good 1v1 defender. But yeah, not against Carrera. Against Carrera, you have to play Martinelli. It is money, 100%. Tafa Tafadzwa says, "Hi Jess, what's your record live views count? If you don't mind me asking." It's like 1,500 or something like that during the transfer window. So yeah, it was like 1,500. Like I think it was like might have been the last transfer window in January. Maybe when we signed Jorginho, I think. But yeah, usually during the transfer window, that's when we really get popping over here on SheKnowsArsenal. So yeah, those are pretty much the players to watch. So 2 Arsenal players and 1 West Ham player. Like I said, Declan Rice, don't you dare think about having the game of your life against us. But if you could just give us a little taste and then kick the ball in the back of your own net, I would love that so that you could get your transfer to Arsenal. Yeah. So now that we've done our players to watch, availability, form, and stats, we can go ahead and predict our lineup. So let's get into it. The predicted lineup is not going to be anything special because we already kind of know who's going to be playing unless something crazy happens from now until Sunday. But this is what I think we'll go with. Okay, you guys see me? You guys can't see me? Hello? So I'll make this bigger for me because I can't read. I don't know if you guys don't know. I can't see. I am blind as a bat. If you guys can't see that, whatever. Like, I'll read it to you. Ramsdale, White, Holding, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Thomas, Odegaard, xhaka, Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus. And that's the predicted lineup. That's who I think will play. I don't think we'll see anything different. Like I said, unless something really happens, but this is the group. It's more than a strong enough lineup to beat West Ham, even away from home. I would love a clean sheet. And over the next 2 games, something that I've been thinking about since, Liverpool and also watching Manchester City play against Bayern is there something we can do in the back line to make us more sturdy, better defensively, a little bit more secure? I don't think Arteta trusts Tierney. We've talked about that. I don't think he trusts him. I think, he is the second option to Zinchenko, but Arteta seems a little bit reluctant to use him sometimes. And he was really, he used Tomiyasu a lot more when Tomiyasu was fit on that left-hand side as a left back to like really shore things up. I'm wondering if we could try something, before we go to St. James and before we go to the Etihad, because as much as I love Zinchenko, you guys know I love him to death, but even from a playing in Europe perspective next season, I do think that we need another option that's more of a center back option back there. And Tomiyasu is probably the option that we would have went with, but he's not available. And so maybe Kivior could do that job, not as, a center back in a 3-at-5, but maybe as the left back just to shore things up. He's 6'3". He's good on the ball. I know it might be a little bit risky, but my fear is going, to Newcastle or like even, West Ham. They're a team that I think, somebody like Declan Rice, he's really, really good at getting that switch right over the back of a fullback to Bowen. And Zinchenko doesn't deal with those balls very well. Tomiyasu dealt with them really well when we played against Liverpool, but it's our weak point. That space behind Zinchenko is a really big weak point for us. And then the space that they like to attack behind Ben White when he overlaps, but less so. So I'm just wondering if there's something that we could do between now until Manchester City to just have an option. Because if he doesn't trust Tierney, and the thing about the big switch over the top and making our defense more secure is, even though I think Tierney is a better defender than Zinchenko, I think the idea that he's an A+ defender is far from the truth. And if we're looking to really shore up our defense and make us really sturdy and hard to beat, especially away from home and a little bit bigger against sides that really get down and dirty in the box kind of thing, is maybe like Kivior starts at or comes in as a left back or something. Because it's the Newcastle game and I think the Manchester City game, they're gonna look to exploit Zinchenko on that side. Love Zinchenko, but we need another option if Arteta's not 100%, sure on Tierney doing that job. And I can understand why he doesn't use him, but there has to be something else. maybe try it against Southampton, before the game ends. Try it against West Ham if we're up a couple of goals, because we need something. I feel very unsure about going to the Etihad or Newcastle with just the option of Zinchenko and maybe Tierney if Arteta feels like it. It doesn't feel like enough. Matt says, I agree with that. It would be nice if Arteta can mold Kivior into what Ake is now for City, or just what Ben White is for us. Ben White for us, on the other side is really good. And I'm not saying we have to do it all the time, but I don't think we actually have an answer because Tomiyasu is not there. And it worked really well against Liverpool. And I really do think that they're going to be hitting those big switches in behind Zinchenko. He's not going to deal with them well because it's just not his thing. And then we could be in trouble, So I just wonder if we could do something there just to help us out. And it's a shame that we haven't seen enough from Kivior. Maybe he's not adapted yet, but with Gabriel on one side of him, he's on the side that he'd feel comfortable on the left. He's left-footed. It could work, but it's still, a risk because he hasn't played that much. But we have to find a way to be sturdy because we're not going to have the ball against Manchester City, so we're going to have to be compact. And then, so if we're not going to have the ball against Manchester City, then Zinchenko's role becomes a little bit less needed. And against Newcastle, they're really good in the air. They're really aggressive. They like to make it into a basketball game. And Zinchenko's not good in those scenarios either. So we need something for sure. Henry says we need midfield, but I mean, we can't do anything midfield wise now. To be honest, we really can't. These are the midfielders that we have, and these are the midfielders that will most likely play. So, I think it's more of a back, what we do at the back more than what we do in midfield. And then you guys made a good point that if it comes down to it and we're not really attacking as much and we need to shore things up, maybe it would have been a better option for, Arteta to bring in like Jorginho for Odegaard instead of doing the Kivior thing and taking Odegaard out. Like, try something different, because it didn't work. Errol says Danny Ings has made it 1-0 West Ham up. Thank you for the update. Yo-Yo says signing Cancelo and Sane is needed for banter and a new rivalry. I mean, I would take Leroy Sane at Arsenal, but not Cancelo. I don't think he has the right attitude, to be honest. I mean, he gets into it with every manager or every board that he's in, so not him, but Sane. I think he's a class player. Otagagua says Zinchenko didn't crumble when we played Newcastle at home, but it's different, playing Newcastle at home versus Newcastle. First of all, Newcastle's whole game at home against us was to sit back and hit us on the counterattack. And they were very negative, but they won't be like that at St. James. Every time you watch them play at St. James, even when they played against Liverpool at home, I thought they were too arrogant. They played a really high line and had Nick Pope trying to play like a modern goalkeeper, a sweeper keeper, and it didn't work out for them. But that's how confident they are at home. And I think with, them feeling good and wanting to go after Champions League, I do think that they'll want to really make it into the game that suits them the best, which is back and forth, lots of space in midfield, lots of space in behind defenses, and really try to go at them. And I think we got to figure out something that's going to help us combat that. I don't think we won't have the ball against Newcastle, but I don't think it's going to be all of them shoved into their box trying to keep us from scoring, if that makes sense. Hightower says Newcastle came to play but couldn't. Philip says KT and Smith Rowe will shine with Rice dropping into defense and allowing SR to play inside the channel. Who's SR? Am I missing something? Who's SR? And allowing SR to play inside the channel. What am I thinking? Who is ESR, maybe, to play in the channel. I was like, who's SR? Danny says KT away to Newcastle. We need a natural defender at left back. Can I be honest though? This whole idea that Kieran Tierney is a natural defender, I think is revisionism as well. Kieran Tierney works hard on defense, but he's not a great 1v1 defender. And his key strengths is actually getting into the attack. He's an attacking fullback. So I'm not sure that necessarily solves our issue. And that's why I was saying maybe use Kiwior instead, because that's what we did with Tomiyasu. There's a reason why Arteta went with Tomiyasu instead of Kieran Tierney against Liverpool. One's a natural defender, an actual center back, and the other one is actually an attacking fullback. So there's a lot of revisionism in the Arsenal fan base right now around Kieran Tierney, and I understand that there's an emotional aspect to it because we all love him. But I'm not 100% sure that that really solves our problem, like I said. And the thing about Kieran Tierney as well is he doesn't give us height. And against Newcastle and Manchester City, they could be really big. Against Bayern Munich, they went with Ake, Stones, Akanji, and Rodri and Diaz. And they also, they have Holland. So, all of a sudden a team like Arsenal that looked a little bit bigger starts to look a little bit smaller against teams like that. And we know Newcastle is really tall. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking about Kiwior, because he solves the height issue as well as the defensive issue back there, just in case. But my thing about Kieran Tierney is that there's a reason why Arteta is not comfortable using him, and I don't think it's because he hates him. I think because he doesn't actually solve the problem that we would need to solve. Even though I do think Arteta should have taken Zinchenko off earlier because his fitness wasn't there. He was tired. It wasn't necessarily because Tierney is a better defender. It's because we needed fresh legs. Kibui says West Ham are playing away. We should bum rush them Sunday and score 4 in the first half. Arteta missed a trick by not taking off Zinni at 55 minutes after most damage is done and use KT lock. I like what you're saying there in terms of try to get those goals early. Yeah, so we should be fresher than them. We're better than them. We should be beating West Ham. And yes, I do think Zinchenko should have come off earlier for KT because he was really tired, but Arteta doesn't feel comfortable for some reason. And I feel like I understand why. Let's see. Richie Rabbit says not exactly a long-term solution. Philip says Tommy's injury went under the radar, but it sucks badly. When it happened, I thought that's really, really bad because it takes away so many options for us. Tomiyasu, if he had been fit, could have come on for Ben White because Ben White had that yellow card and he just couldn't do anything from there. He can't play center back for us. He can't play left back for us. There's just so many positions and options that we can't use. Even Kiwior coming on as a 3-5, whatever. If Tommy can play, Holding is on the bench. And he can come on instead of Kiwior. So Tommy's injury has been very hurtful to our run-in for sure. And that's why he either needs to be fit almost the entire season next season, or we need to look for somebody else because he's so important to the squad, but he's never really available. That sucks, Mark says Partey right back with J20 in midfield. I hate it. I think we should only do it if it's just absolutely necessary. I hate it though. The idea of it, the thought of it, the feeling of it, it just makes shiver down my spine type stuff. I don't ever want to see a midfield that exists with Jorginho and Xhaka in it anymore. I just don't, but again, I'm not sure that really solves our problem. Our problem is, on the left-hand side, more with Zinchenko at these, grounds up north where the teams are bigger and they want to run you down, make it a track meet. That's where our issue is. So taking White off and weakening our midfield and then also making it difficult for our midfield to compete because we have Jorginho doesn't necessarily solve any of our issues. And I do think that the Tomiyasu thing has sucked. It really has. Richie Rabbit says Tierney is an old-fashioned up and down fullback best with a tall center forward to aim at. Newcastle will unfortunately be perfect for him. I agree, for sure. I think that's a good move for Tierney, but I don't want to see it happen, but I can see it. Denver says, I know we've done a great job by signing players who are versatile. Issue is if they get injured, we lose 2 spots instead of 1. Mark says, who is Winga willing to use as our left 8 in future seasons? Rice, Vieira, ESR. Honestly, I don't know. I think Vieira, you can kind of see that Arteta wants to use him there, but he also wants to use him in the Odegaard position. So ESR is the player that I don't really understand where he's going to be playing next season for us, and we will see, hopefully in preseason, what he's gonna be for us. So before we get out of here, let's go ahead and do some predictions for the game against West Ham. Who do you think is going to score the goals? How do you think it's going to go? Things like that. Will Arsenal bounce back from maybe a disappointing game at the weekend against Liverpool at Anfield? I think there's a little bit of a low feeling amongst the Arsenal fans. So do you think that, we'll bounce back from this, and what are your predictions for the game? Let me know in the chat, and make sure that you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel because it helps to get found. Let's see what you guys are saying. I'll let you guys get into the chat and let me know. Oh, man. Let's see. Denver is saying 3-0 to the Arsenal, hopefully. Ota Guagua says 4-0 Arsenal, hopefully. Richie Rabbit says goals from Gabriel and Martinelli. I would love that. Danny says ESR future 8. Maybe. Stubb says ESR going to play false 9. Maybe. OG says 4-0 Arsenal. Yo-Yo says 4-0 Arsenal. 4 different scores. Michael says 3-0 all three Gabbies. I would love that. Danny says, why isn't ESR playing? We need to use him. Do we? One thing that we haven't struggled for this season is goals. We had like a little moment in between where, Nketiah was playing and we kind of ran out of ideas, but I haven't really seen like a definite need for ESR in any game that we've played this, lately at least. So I don't know if he's playing because he's not playing because they want to ease him in, or because he's just low down the pecking order. When you look at the pecking order, you can see it's always like the same people that come in first. It's like, Trossard or who else? Tomiyasu would always be one of the first people to come on. Who else usually comes on? It's escaping me, but there's somebody else that always comes on before other people. And then Tierney and ESR come on last, So I just wonder if he's kind of further down the pecking order, because if you're down there with Kieran Tierney, you're probably not top of the list. You know what I mean? No offense to him, but Vieira, Tomiyasu, Trossard, these players kind of come on first, and then Tierney and ESR kind of get those last little minutes. IFU says 3-0 Gabby hat trick, 2 to Gabby if Arteta takes him off, and 1 goal to Martinelli. Okay. Boy says 3-0 Arsenal and Nketiah hat trick and 15-minute cameo. Don't know if he'll be playing, but I will take that. Danny says 3-0 Arsenal. Do you guys remember, when I was looking for pictures from this past fixture, I think we played them away from home late on in the season, last season. And I remember we were wearing the yellow kit, and Declan Rice and Nketiah got into it, and Declan Rice was like, who are you? Nobody knows who you are, to Nketiah. This is when Nketiah was really feeling himself. And it was a weird thing between the two of them, but then you find out that they played obviously in Chelsea's youth together and on the younger England sides, and Nketiah's mom had made Declan Rice jollof rice before. So it's why are you acting like you don't know him? It was the weirdest thing. Stubb says 5-0 clean sheet, point to prove, hopefully. Cal says 4-1 Jesus, Saka, Gabriel, and Martinelli. Mark says Reece has looked better off of the bench than ESR. he is above him in the pecking order, it seems. Which Gunnar says 3-0, Gabriel Jesus 9, Saka and Nelly. Saksham says ESR will be a new goalkeeper. That's not nice. Nanu says 4-1 to Arsenal, Martinelli to break the all-time goal scoring record. Mark says J20. Fabricio says I'm going with another 4-1. West Ham's back line is to be got at. Boy says ESR is better starting games. There's simply nowhere to start him presently. Richie Rabbit says 3-1. Let's see. Yo-Yo says, if we need a late goal at the Etihad, I'd expect ESR to be subbed on. Otherwise, it's a wrap for him. Diallo says, just got here. Big up everyone in the chat. A little late. Glenn says, Jess, what's up? Nothing, just getting my stream on. Just to remind you guys, a little bit later, probably a late night stream, to be honest. I want to talk about the links to Diaby. I won't be streaming tomorrow because I'll be out filming something for the Premier League, which is really awesome. And then I'm going to be hanging out with my cousin who's in town. So there will be no streams tomorrow. So I want to make sure that I talk about Diaby today. So let's say like probably after the Europa League games are done. If you guys are still up and you guys want to hang out, we'll talk about Diaby then and a little bit about the right wing position. Boy says Rice and Nketiah bantering each other. It was like the weirdest thing. Yo-Yo says Ramsdale should have been sent off in that game if memory serves me right. It was a strange one. But yeah, I just remember that interaction and I was just like, y'all know each other though. Like, so what do you mean? Who are you? Glenn says, I think we concede. So 3-1 Arsenal, Odegaard, masterclass. He's somebody that needs a big game. He's been heavily scrutinized off of the back of that Anfield performance, which was not great, but some of the stuff has been a little over the top. Crispy says, I will be there. And Richie Rabbit says, just as well, Terry isn't a Mank or you'd be living up there. I don't like Manchester. It's like, it's really rainy all the time, and it's rainy here, but it's like more rainy there. I've told him so many times that I'll like never go to Old Trafford. Like this is just the last place you like. If he tried to take me there for any reason, I wouldn't go. I won't go inside. It's so bad. That's why like this whole thing over the last couple of days where KG and like Flex and I think Expressions have been making fun of Terry and saying that like the only reason why he is nice to Arsenal is because of me. If you guys understood like how much we fought over Arsenal and Manchester United, you would know that he's not an Arsenal fan. I don't make him say nice things. I actually like am very like, you hate us and like I hate you guys. Like it's really bad. So when people are saying that he's just saying it because of me, no, he's not. He hates us just like we hate them. Denver says Manchester is a village settings, to be honest. Diallo says, when I saw Jess's title and thumbnail, I was shit scared. She's playing with our hearts. Please don't do that again, Jess. I won't do it again. You guys don't like clickbaity titles, so I won't do it again. Boy says Terry only wants us to win because he hates Manchester City more. It's really that simple. Chelsea says, do you ever go to the games? The last game I went to was Brentford, and then the game that I went to before that is Nottingham Forest. Kind of trying to decide the next game that I want to go to. I won't be in London for the Newcastle game, but I wouldn't go up there anyway. So figure out like the next game I want to go to. And then I'm trying to get to a women's game soon. So yes, I do like going to the games, but it's a little bit difficult as well because I need to be creating content. So I have to kind of pick a game that's not like a big deal, if that makes sense. Like I wouldn't go to like probably the Chelsea game, because I need to be here to stream. But, maybe like I chose Nottingham Forest for a reason, if that makes sense. So yeah, but let's go ahead and get out of here. My score prediction is 3-0 Arsenal. I think Gabriel Martinelli will score 2, and I think Saka will score 1. Not a lot of people said Saka would score, which I'm like, have we forgotten about our star boy? Like, he has good, good stats against West Ham. Like, it's the chances of him scoring against them is really good. Or maybe a Declan Rice own goal. I would like that. Show your allegiance to us. Hello. But make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. Really enjoyed this stream. And make sure you guys join after the Europa League games. You guys will see the link. If you guys are, subscribed, you guys will get the notification. But we're going to talk about Diaby and the right wing scenario at Arsenal. So make sure you guys join then, and I'll talk to you guys then. Bye, guys.